Arizona basketball in another must-win game, and Arizona football gets its man.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel and get FanDuel.com and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoffs unforgettable with FanDuel, sportsbook partner of the NFL official. All right, now, Arizona basketball is in a must-win game against UCF, and Arizona football, we are going to tease that for the last gets its defensive coordinator. But as we all know, this has been a very frustrating, a very taxing time for Arizona basketball fans for a variety of reasons. First of all, the out-of-conference schedule was absolutely horrid for Arizona. Now, I think you could look at it in hindsight and be like, all right, well, these teams were actually really good. Oklahoma was really good. West Virginia, before everybody got hurt, was really good. And, UCLA, a game Arizona basically just gave away, was really good as well. So there's clearly that. But overall, though, it was just frustrating because Arizona lost all those games, and you do not want to lose all of those games. But so far, so well in Big 12 play. Arizona is undefeated 3-0 and just got a monster road sweep against two very good teams in Cincinnati and West Virginia. But again, like we always talk about, you got to keep the pedal to the metal. You got to keep the gas rolling, whatever it is. You got to keep that rolling, and that, I think, is the next step for Arizona. And you got UCF coming to town here. Now, if Arizona loses this game, it almost feels like everything goes right out the window. All that goodwill, all those good vibes, all that good juju, all out the window if you lose this game. So you cannot lose this game under any circumstances. And I think that's very apparent. That is very easy to see. Now, UCF is interesting because they're far from great. They are 11-3 on the season. They did have a very nice win to start the season off against Texas A&M. Texas A&M obviously is a solid team. And then you also got a nice road win at Texas Tech. So again, but you also lost by 5,000 points to Kansas within the last couple weeks as well. So it's a game that Arizona should be able to win. Now, looking at some of these matchups, and then we're going to go to Arizona here in just a second. The first one, though, you got to keep an eye on is Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall, 6'7", 235, averaging about 16-7 per game. Kind of a bruising type player. And he's somebody that the Twins should be able to match up okay with. Because he's not super tall, and he's not somebody that is going to get a lot of blocked shots. So generally, guys like that for Arizona, they end up matching up okay with. So that's your leading scorer. And then somebody else you got to keep an eye on: Jordan Ivy Curry, 6'3" guard, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. A lot of the guys on this team don't shoot great percentages. This is another one. He's shooting 41% from the field. Arizona's got to be able to take advantage of this situation. Arizona just has better players. It's really kind of that simple. Now, the other one, too, that I'm just going to kind of go down, and we're going to talk about what Arizona needs. Darius Johnson, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Kind of a savvy player, but again, 42%. None of these players are great, and I think that's the thing. And, you could say, well, Mike, that kind of comes into play for you because, you said that against Wisconsin, and how did that work out? That's very, very fair, but we'll see. Now, another one, too, that you got to look at then is Mustafa Thiem. Very cool name, freshman, massive dude. This is generally where guys like Awaka and Townsend get into trouble. 7'2", 235 pounds. Block shots, 2.5 block shots per game. Guys like that, Arizona generally doesn't do great with. So this is probably going to be a game where Henry needs to come in, and Henry needs to come in early. So Again, Arizona needs to win this game, and we're going to get into the matchups for Arizona here in just a second. But you look at it, and again, Arizona matches up fairly well. You look at it, and I think that, outside of probably that starting power forward spot, Arizona's better at basically each position. Now, the one guy that I'm going to be keeping an eye on throughout, and again, Henry Vasar is obviously one of those players that you're going to keep an eye on throughout, but somebody that definitely keep an eye on throughout is KJ Lewis. KJ Lewis has been bringing his A plus KJ Lewis game. His last game against West Virginia, I thought was probably his best performance of the entire season. He was great. He was there's no other way around it. He was great, and he got into the paint. He did all of the stuff that you're really hoping that a player of his caliber can do. And what we've also seen about KJ is that KJ is a good passer. There's really no way around it. KJ is a good passer. When KJ plays well like that, this is going to be something that I think with KJ, this could really have hopefully been his coming out party, kind of that line in the sand. Because Arizona needs him to play like an NBA player. And not only does Arizona need him to play like an NBA player, it just he's one of those guys that just has kind of some next level athleticism to him. And he also showed a shot. I don't know that I necessarily look at it and say that he is that he can't be a great shooter. I just don't know that those shots are necessarily going to go in, and I think that's kind of where you're looking at it. Now, the next one too that we're gonna have to talk about is Caleb Love in this game. Now, listen, there's not a lot of players in the country better than Caleb Love. There's just really not. But he is the problem with him though is that he is very mercurial. He is somebody that you watch and you're like, all right, why can't you just do more of that? And he doesn't. There's going to be bad games. That's just going to be the way that the Caleb Love experience goes. There's nothing that we can really do about that. It's just going to be the way that it goes, is what it is. Now, I think we're also kind of, it's fair to say that you're going to have to find ways to win without him. And that's a big part of this. Without him, you got to be able to win. And I think Arizona found out last year that there's going to be games where he doesn't play well. And that was a big part of this road trip for me, that Arizona found out ways to win without Caleb playing well. And I think that's where you're at. And you're just kind of like, all right. So other players have to be able to pick up the pace. The other one, too, that's really been able to pick up that pace is Jaden Bradley. Jaden Bradley was absolutely fantastic. Jaden Bradley, he on that road trip, every single game, 15 points, but just a steadying influence. You need more of that. And I think you just kind of know game in and game out what you're going to be able to get from Jaden. Again, Jaden's never going to be a great shooter, and he's never going to be a great shooter. I think that people know that at this stage. But you also know that he's also probably going to be something where he is going to be he's going to be able to get his. Like, I don't know exactly how he does it because he's able to get downhill, he's able to get past defenses, and he's able to get easy layups. And it happens time and time again. And that's kind of where it's at with him. He's been the best player on the team. Not only has he been the best player on the team, he's also been somebody that has just kind of been a calming influence. I think in this day and age, you see a lot of players that they're just like, they're all over the place. You don't really know what you're going to be able to get from time to time. You watch him and you're like, oh, okay, he gets it. And that's what's exciting, I think, if you're an Arizona fan, is that he gets it. And Arizona hasn't had reliable play. Arizona hasn't had steady play. And I think that's something that Arizona fans are, I think Arizona fans are kind of at the stage where it's like, man, I'll just take that. This is a school that had Mike Bibby, Jason Terry, Damon Stoudemire. We're used to solid point guard play, and we haven't had it in 3 years under Tommy Lloyd. We've finally gotten that. Now, we're going to talk about the front court, and then we're going to talk about Arizona's defensive coordinator. But first, FanDuel. Check it out at FanDuel, my friends. Here's the deal. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Duh. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The NFL is great. We all know this. We like the NFL a great deal, and FanDuel is here to make your experience even more enjoyable. Again, you got a bunch of different games. You also got college football football. You've also got the NBA. You've got college basketball as well. Check all of that out and more at FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, we've got Arizona basketball and the front court. The front court has been the difference maker for the Wildcats this season. Henry Vasar has been the great. Henry Vasar, I think, has been the one that has basically turned around Arizona's fortune, has turned around Arizona's season, to be honest with you. The way that he's blocking shots, the way that he is just basically being a force out there has been something to behold, because I didn't see this, and I don't think that most people saw this occurring. He's been, I think, everything that Arizona fans could have possibly hoped for and more. And it's just been exciting to watch all of this play out, because he's done it the right way. He also gives a little bit of credence that Tommy Lloyd is okay at developing players. I know there's been some people that have said that Tommy Lloyd can't develop players. Well, Henry Vasar says, here, watch me, I'm good. And he has been good. He's blocked shots. He's rebounded everything. We just need that to continue, because against big teams, he's got to be a presence. And if he's a presence, then Arizona is going to be in fairly good shape. If he is not a presence, Arizona will not be in good shape. So there is that. Okay, now let's talk a little bit then about Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant's been a spacer extraordinaire for all of the folks out there that like spacers. He is He's been a really good shooter for the Cats. Not only has he been a really good shooter, he's also been able to get to the bucket a little bit. He's got some rebounds. I want to see him play even more, because when he plays more, Arizona is in good shape. Carter's been great for Arizona. Carter has been basically, I think, everything you could have hoped for and more. And watching him, you also can see, too, the dude just gets it. His best basketball is in front of him. Not only is his best basketball in front of him, he makes winning plays. Just continue to do what you're doing. Now, again, he's starting to show up on NBA draft charts. Don't love that by any means, but it is what it is. That's kind of the price of success, and Carter Bryant has been great. So there's really nothing else that you can really say about that, other than the fact that he's just been very, very good. Okay, and then after that, like I said, Awaka, Townsend, it is what it is. They're both very limited. They're both kind of, it is what it is. But Anthony Del Orso, I like Anthony Del Orso more than most people. I want to see ADO come in and continue to shoot the ball. He goes in and continues to shoot the ball. That's his place, because there aren't a lot of guys on the team. There's nobody on the team that can shoot like he does, and he comes in and he is looking to shoot. I very much like that. Okay, now let's move over then to a little bit of Arizona football. Arizona football has its defensive coordinator in Danny Gonzales. I am fine with this hire of Danny Gonzales. Listen, at the end of the day, the offense is what really needs to be the part that picks up Arizona. And last year, it was obviously atrocious. I'm not breaking any news to anybody. The offense stunk. But the defense, Gonzales has a lot of history. Obviously, he's been a DC he's been a DC at other stops, so he's fairly good. I mean, he's fairly well known. Most people like the job that he did at ASU. I'm not going to pretend that I know the job that he did at ASU, but most folks were happy with the job that he did do. And okay, fair enough. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. He's obviously called a lot of defenses before. Dwayne Aquina is going to be back there in the secondary, but when you see what Danny Gonzales was able to do, you can also see a dude who I think at this stage in the game probably is a, how do I put this? Probably someone who he knows the personnel, obviously. The problem is, what kind of personnel is there? The secondary, I think you're going to be okay. You return Trey Stukes, Dalton Johnson, and Gunnar Maldonado and Genesis Smith. Or not Gunnar Maldonado, but Genesis Smith. You've also got, I think the secondary should be fine. The big concern that I think everybody should have is at defensive line with Joe Salavea has taken over for Joe Sumalo. Joe Sumalo was terrible. Joe Sumalo was wildly unpopular with the players on the team. He was also wildly unpopular with the coaches on the team. He wasn't a good fit. Maybe he did some good things. I don't know. But this is also somebody that couldn't understand that Big Bill Norton was better than Chuba Muai. And so that immediately leads me to question some of what you are doing as a coach. But getting in Joe Salavea is a nice thing. It's a nice little addition, a nice little feather in the cap for the University of Arizona. Not only is it a nice little feather in the cap, he can recruit a little bit. Now, is he going to be able to recruit at the level that he was able to recruit at, say, a place like, oh, I don't know. Well, let's talk about like a Oregon or an Oregon or a how do I put this? Not only an Oregon but also a Miami. Probably not, but that doesn't mean that he can't try really hard. That doesn't mean that he can't also do some things where you're like, okay, he can be useful. Joe Swallow wasn't useful. You look at the defensive line that Arizona put out this past year, and it wasn't good. You had Chuba, you had Isaiah Johnson. I actually like Isaiah Johnson if Isaiah Johnson could stay healthy. The problem is Isaiah Johnson has never been able to stay healthy. I don't like at all the defensive ends. Trey Smith is okay. You lose now. You got Chase Kennedy as one of them. I like Chase Kennedy, but he's also 210 pounds, so that isn't necessarily ideal as well. So this is going to be an interesting, like I said, this is going to be an interesting setup for the U of A, and I don't know exactly what to make of it because, well, there's certainly some concerns about that defensive line and its personnel, and just kind of how all of this does really play out for the U of A. And I don't know that anybody really has that answer. I certainly don't have that answer, but this is definitely an upgrade. Getting Sumalo out there, getting Salavea in is a nice little feather in the cap. And also, Danny Gonzales, I am going to reserve judgment on this. I'm fine with the hire. Listen, at the end of the day, this is Brent Brennan's hire. The offensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, that and the defensive coordinator are going to be big. Are going to be big, and we'll see how that does play out. So, what can we expect from Arizona with all of this? And is there another move that we need to talk about? I don't know if there is necessarily another move, but we're going to find that one out. But first, TurboTax, my friends, TurboTax. All right, here's the deal with TurboTax. Listen, everybody is using TurboTax at some point in the game, and there is a reason why. This message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wandering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. Okay, here's the deal. UC taxes don't need to be complicated. That is why Intuit TurboTax is here. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so that you can focus on your day. That is what you're looking for. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Services. Real-time updates only in the iOS app. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guaranteed. Again, TurboTax is here to make your job easier. And this time of the year, everybody's got some difficult things going on. You don't want to have to worry about those kind of issues and you won't have to worry about those kind of issues with TurboTax. So again, check it out. And another one of these ones that you are going to thank me later. TurboTax. Get started started. Get it in today. It is simple and it is easy. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk. Just talk about the offensive line. Then is Josh Oglesby going to be back? I think that is the question that so many people are asking, and I don't know the answer to that one. Is Josh Oglesby going to be back? I tend to think that he will be back. I thought he did a terrible job this past year as the offensive line coach, but Brent Brennan very much likes Josh Oglesby. Not only does Brent Brennan very much like Josh Oglesby, he also likes the aspect that he brings that there's some continuity. Now, again, he's never been an offensive line coach in the kind of system that Seth Dagey is going to bring, and that could be problematic, obviously. So we'll find out. I guess, like I said, I didn't think he did a very good job, but it is what it is. But the offense is going to have to carry the defense, I still believe. I think offensively now, you got 4 pretty good wide receivers. I think it's pretty easy to be excited about those guys. It's pretty easy to, just kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is a pretty good setup here that Arizona's got. But again, you've also got you've got an offensive line that was absolutely atrocious last year. You lost a number of players, and good players is that, and some guys that I think probably regressed a great deal. That's generally not something that is generally something that is that's generally something that's going to be we'll find out. But Arizona's offense is going to have to take care of business. Arizona's offense is going to have to score a lot of points, because if they don't score a lot of points, I don't expect the defense to really be a juggernaut that's going to be stopping anybody. And that's where that's kind of where I'm at this stage. But Danny Gonzales is in, though, so that's another thing. Keeping Dwayne Aquina around at least appears to be a good omen. But at the same time, we'll find out. Is the personnel good enough? Is Javion Cole good enough? Are players like that, are they good enough? And I don't think that we know the answer. I don't think that we know the answer to that, no matter who the coach is. And I think that's the part that could be maybe a little bit scary about all of this. So we'll find out. Now, from a linebacker perspective, how is that going to play out? You've obviously got a nice little player, but you brought in a nice transfer. Obviously, you got Tay Brown back. The linebacking unit was not strong last year. It was not good. And I think you've got to kind of figure out what exactly that next step is, and we will find out. But either way, the coaching staff is pretty much set. As far as the offseason goes, it wasn't the worst. I will give it that. I think that Brennan and his staff did some nice things. But again, I'm going to reserve judgment on all of this, because I thought that last year was an absolutely atrocious job, and you inherited a lot and you really kind of squandered it. But maybe Arizona, looking forward, can be a little bit better. If they could be a little bit better, then we could maybe see something that isn't a little bit friendly or light. I don't know. But now, getting back to Arizona basketball here for a second, you got to win against UCF, period, point blank. You have to beat UCF. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You just got to win that game. And if you win that game, then I think that you feel pretty good that, you're headed in the right direction. You'd be 4-0 in conference play, and you still got some winnable games coming up after that. And then you're going to have a tough gauntlet coming up. But Arizona, I think, is in a pretty good spot. But you got to win this. You can't kick it away, because if you kick it away, then I think you're just basically gave up everything that you got to at that point, which is not something that any Arizona fan should want. All right. Very much appreciate you all, though, making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. We're going to be back with you tomorrow. We got the Arizona Central Florida post-game show. And then after that, we're going to be talking a lot more of recruiting for football. Now that the portal is closed, how is everything kind of situationed itself out? There's going to be a lot of things to discuss, and we're going to be your one-stop shop for it all. But like I said, Arizona's got to win this game. You got Danny Gonzales in as your DC, and you've also appeared to have held on to Dwayne Aquina, which is a big part of all of this. So Have a great rest of your Friday. And as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Bear down, back the A, TTFN, ta-ta for now.